What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome to Warriors Latest. I am your host, Max Arizin. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you hear, as I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, it's been an interesting 24 hours in Dub Nation, not only because of who's become available, but new information that has come to light. And for me, the biggest thing still is that Clippers scandal regarding the tax violations and circumventing the cap. Now we know there are possibly going to be fines, there are going to be possibly going to be lost picks, and some stricter CBA rules, which is my biggest concern. Now, I look at the overall situation. We got Kawhi. You've got them circumventing the cap through this company aspiration, getting an extra $28 million. And obviously, it looks like the Clippers are going to lose Kawhi. He's going to become a free agent, and for the Warriors, we can look into acquiring him, but I'm more concerned with how this is going to affect the cap situation and specifically the CBA. Maybe the NBA might close some loopholes that were open that the Warriors have taken advantage of in the past. Now, one of the biggest loopholes that I've seen the Warriors take advantage of is the sign and trade loophole, where the Warriors were able to sign and trade Durant for D'Lo, and then in turn that into Andrew Wiggins and a first-round pick, which turned into Jonathan Kuminga. Now, those types of deals could face new scrutiny, not because it's circumventing the cap, but it's a way for teams to sort of get under without exactly getting under. I mean, there are always ways to find there are always ways to, I guess, go through the loopholes, but because of this scandal, those loopholes might be closed. And on top of that, there could be tighter tax rules in terms of sign and trade flexibility, which is already extremely bad now, as well as trades in general, how players are assigned and how players may leave other teams. Now, this may turn into something where we're back in the 1970s, 1980s, where free agency pretty much didn't exist. You couldn't change teams, and players had no really agency in their own contract decisions or their own, like, what they were doing with their career. They had no control over that. Only the team had control over that. But now it's looking like it's going to get back there, because it's like, all right, Kawhi left the Raptors, where he just won a championship, to move to LA because maybe there was some extra incentivization. Now, right now, that doesn't affect the Warriors because the Warriors are in championship or bust mode. But I'm talking way down the line after 2027, when they do have a ton of cap space. They might not be able to get those guys or lure them away from other teams to the Bay in order to rebuild their roster and become a championship contender again. So I do see this as having major fallout. On top of that, I don't know what this law firm that the NBA hired is going to find in their investigation into the Clippers. And yes, it shouldn't involve the Warriors because, yes, two different teams, Clippers and Warriors, but my main concern is with the Jerry West connection. We don't know maybe what dirt is out there, God rest his soul, but what dirt may be out there that they find when they're looking into the Clippers. As we both know, Jerry West was instrumental in building this Warriors dynasty before leaving to go to the Clippers and help them rebuild. I don't know if there's going to be an entire Clippers Warriors connections, but it's got me concerned enough that I am talking about it. So this Clippers investigation, as it sort of plays out, I really hope that nothing too crazy happens and the Warriors don't get penalties involved, and there aren't any, let's say, just long-lasting penalties with unintended consequence. We saw what happened with the current CBA and how a lot of the unintended consequences are that the second apron has turned into a hard cap. Teams are literally afraid, and now that's kind of limiting like how much teams will spend on a single player. And God knowing, this is probably going to create a lockout in a number of years because teams can't spend the way they used to, and players aren't getting the contracts that they used to either. But besides that, I've been watching a lot of Eurobasket lately, and the one thing that's really stood out to me is Nikola Vucevic's play in Eurobasket. Now, he was eliminated in group stage with Montenegro, but the fact is he put up solid numbers while he was at Eurobasket. And that goes with 20 points per game, over 11 rebounds per game, which led the entire tournament, four plus assists per game to go along with 56 field goal percentage from three. And he had 4 double doubles. And we look back to what he had with the Bulls last year. He was averaging 18, 10, 3, shooting 53 from field goal and then 40% from three. Now that's solid, but we didn't think he could keep it up. However, now it's like, all right, he's playing with lesser talent and playing against like more seasoned competition, more synergized teams, because a lot of these European players, they love to play with their their national teams, and they practice, as the saying goes, they practice 6 days for one game. So these are very, very in-tune teams that he's playing with much lesser talent. So this has got to reignite some interest with the Warriors. Yes, we know they're going out to get Al Horford, but you know what? It's worth a look again to get Vucevic. He's on that expiring contract, and after his time with Montenegro and Eurobasket, last year wasn't a fluke. He was shooting 40% from three last year. He shot over 50% from three at Eurobasket. This has got to say, all right, maybe I was wrong about Vooch. Maybe I was a little too harsh on his criticism. That's what Mike Dunleavy should be saying. So I hope they look at him and say, all right, this wasn't a fluke. Let's bring him in and see how effective he can be in our motion lineup. And yes, he does have those defensive deficiencies, but we know Draymond can help cover those up, as well as other players who are going to play the floor, whether it be a number of different guys, or just somebody that they bring in to fill out the roster. But a younger guy that plays in for Draymond helps Vucevic really shore up the defense in the middle. But we know he can also get physical with those bigger centers league, which is something I really want the Warriors to get. Because Al Horford, as much as he's going to do great stretching the floor, he can't really body up with those bigger centers anymore. And he's not going to give you a lot of minutes for an entire game. At most, it might be 25 minutes, and that's not really going to help you in the playoffs when you're playing 30-plus minutes. So they need to bring in a guy who can give you those 30-plus minutes, score from deep, as well as be a muscle man in the middle. So I'm really happy that he showed out, and hopefully Mike Dunleavy did take notice. But that's not the only trade opportunity that I saw coming in the past day, as both Andre Drummond and Kelly Oubre Jr. are pretty much on the trade block, according to the rumors. Now, the main reason they're on the trade block, I found out, is because they want to re-sign, or the Sixers want to re-sign Quentin Grimes. And I understand that they're looking to give Quentin Grimes a little extra money, but for the Warriors, this is great. They're basically giving up 2 starter-level players for nothing. Now, we know Drummond, he hasn't been the same starter-level player as he's been in previous years, but I believe he's still got it. Now, let's rewind the clock to 23-24 season. Drummond's playing for the Bulls, backing up the aforementioned Nikola Vucevic. Now, Vucevic went down for a number of games, I remember that season, and Drummond just straight up stepped into the starter role, and he's grabbing rebounds like a madman, just bodying guys out, grabbing rebounds in the double digits game after game after game. And I remember during a streak he had 15, 20, like 16. He kept going up there. I believe he had at least 3 20-rebound games. And that's exactly what the Warriors need. And if you're getting him for nothing, totally totally great deal for the Warriors because it's going to cost them at most one of their trade exceptions and a second round pick that's never going to convey. This is pretty much a salary dump deal. So I love the idea of them getting Drummond, a super rebounder. I know he can't stretch the floor, but he still is that physical guy that can match up with the likes of Joker, Gobert, Şengün, DeAndre Ayton, Ivan Zubac, and so on and so forth. Even Domantas Sabonis, if they get to that point. So I love Drummond there, even though he doesn't have that stretchability that Al Horford would have. But have that in a rotation of Horford and Drummond, that's perfect. Now with Oubre, that is a match made in heaven. Now Oubre, as we remember, he was part of that gap year team. So that year where they drafted James Wiseman, everybody was down. It was 21-22. It wasn't really that great. They were in the play-in, but didn't really do anything. What I like about it is his tenacity on defense. He's really evolved as a player since he left the Warriors. He did well with the Hornets, and he has done well with the Sixers, averaging 15 a game. So I like that as sort of a secondary story. Yes, he isn't exactly a deep threat anymore. Well, ever, because I believe his career is like 33%. So that's not exactly great. But his tenacity on defense is just so much. He's one of the along with Draymond, he's one of the last enforcers in the game. And by enforcers, we know that's guys like Draymond, that's guys like Oubre, guys who will get physical and get into fights with the opposing team. And I think another guy I remember is Matt Barnes being that kind of enforcer. I can't remember the center's name on the Pistons, but Bill Laimbeer. Bill Laimbeer was the ultimate enforcer. He's just a dirty player, but got the job done, and it worked. And at this point for the Warriors, yes, we don't like dirty players, but let's be honest. We've put up with Draymond since 2015. I don't think adding Oubre to the defensive lineup is really going to change anything that much. Now, he hasn't exactly been the guy who's getting technicals as he was in previous years, but a lineup of, let's say, Jimmy, Draymond, and Kelly Oubre, that's something to be impressed about because they might not be the most talented team out there compared to say the Rockets or the Thunder, but they will definitely, without a doubt, be the meanest. Now, if you've ever seen that movie, The Longest Yard, that team would remind me of the Mean Machine. And I'm just excited thinking about it. So hopefully the Warriors go out and get them. And looking more into it, all the Warriors would have to trade for Oubre is their trade exception that they got for Kyle Anderson. Now that trade exception is for $8.8 million, which can absorb the entirety of Kelly Oubre's $8.4 million. And because he's on an expiring deal, it works out perfectly for the Dubs. Now, bottom line is that the Warriors' patience finally is paying off. We look at the opportunities that they now have. All right, Jonathan Kuminga, we're not going to get, say, the return package that I guess Joe Lacob or Mike Dunleavy Jr. would have wanted initially, a starter and a first-round pick. Okay, that's fine with me, but with Oubre and Drummond becoming available, as well as Vucevic's play in Eurobasket being stellar, it makes me say, okay, we don't need that much for a player like Jonathan Kuminga. So we need to at least get a decent amount back. And like I was saying before in my previous videos, trading him to the likes of Phoenix for like Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards, who is another center you can add to the mix, which is exactly what the Warriors need, as well as 3 second-round picks and maybe a heavily protected first-round pick, if you can convince the Suns to do that, is going to give the Warriors more trade assets to make further moves and solidify their bench as well as their starting lineup. Now, say they go out, they trade for Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, maybe Ryan Dunn, and draft picks. They go out and get either Kelly Oubre or Andre Drummond, maybe even both, and then go out and sign players such as Seth Curry, Malcolm Brogdon, so on and so forth. And then obviously Al Horford, and maybe trade for Nikola Vucevic. In that, you would have, let's say, all right, say you leave Drummond with the Sixers. You have Vucevic, you have Al Horford, you have Nick Richards, and you have Kelly Oubre along with Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn. You have a backup power forward, you have a starting small forward, you have a great backup small forward, and then you have three viable centers in Nick Richards, Vucevic, and Al Horford. You're obviously going to have to trade away Quentin Post, but that's not big of a deal. And unfortunately, you're going to have to lose Buddy Hield and Moses Moody if you trade him for Vucevic, but you're going to replace them with Seth Curry and Malcolm Brogdon. Now, the biggest thing I've noticed, at least with teams that are real title contenders, is how important their depth is come playoff time. Now, the Warriors' depth was not a thing this past playoff, so making moves like this is going to pay dividends come playoff time. But it's up to the Warriors to make these smart moves, and hopefully they make these smart moves. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you heard today. And if you have any other ideas for what the Warriors should do in terms of like adding depth to the roster, who they should trade Kuminga for, or maybe who they should add in to a potential Oubre and Andre Drummond deal, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.